Okay, this is another test, so I want you to pay close attention. As you can see right here, this is a glass of grape juice. Grape juice. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to pour a glass of wine. Now look closely because they do look very similar. And by similar, I mean they are practically indistinguishable. And I'll prove it to you. Watch very closely. You're going to see how difficult it is to tell the two apart. Okay, you following? Trying to follow? Okay. Now, this test again is for some of my special viewers, but can you tell me now which is the wine and which is the grape juice? It wasn't until the mid-1800s that fruit juice began to be sold on any sort of large or small scale. That's because when it was bottled, it began to ferment, began to turn into alcohol, which wouldn't bode well, especially if you were selling grape juice in those little juice boxes for kids, because you'd have a lot of angry mothers to deal with, and that's not something you want to deal with. Then a man named Louis Pasteur came up with a method called pasteurization, which is weird because both his name and the method were so similar. But what it would do was stop fruit juices, grape juice, from fermenting, which I don't know how much people really cared about that until the temperance movement started to take hold around the mid-19th century. And this was a group of people who said, stop it with the drinking. We don't want you to a bunch of angry spouses who were angry at their spouses for getting shit-faced too much. And so the temperance movement was born. In turn, this temperance movement seemed to affect several religions, including the Methodists, the Catholics, and Jewish people who used actual wine in their ceremonies. So in 1869, a Methodist minister named Dr. Thomas Welch came along and he said, hey, what I'm going to do is take some grape juice, pasteurize it, and sell it as unfermented wine, or they called it temperance wine. And he did okay for a while, but then he kind of gave it up. That may be also because he was such a slob, drinking all of that grape juice left a mark. A few years later, though, his son, Charles, picked up the business, and as the temperance movement gained momentum around the end of the 1800s and certainly into the early 1900s, before Prohibition, the business really started to pick up, and Charles decided to name the product grape juice, and that's what became Welch's grape juice, all of which I found to be an inspiring story. And I personally have decided to develop a method whereas I can go to the grocery store, I can buy a bottle of cheap grape juice and reverse the pasteurization process.